Okay, hello everybody. This is Joy from the Department of Libraries. Thank you for coming to our webinar. I hope you haven't had too much trouble signing in. We're having a few challenges here ourselves, so it's a new format for us. So hopefully that's all working okay. But thank you for joining us. We're talking about community collaborations today and focusing on 3 different organizations that libraries often partner with: Everybody Wins, Rooted in Vermont, and Agricultural Literacy Week. And we have people from each of those other organizations here with us. So a couple things in terms of the technology. Please make sure that you're muted. And also we wanted to let you know that we are recording this because we'll have it up on our site for people who can't see it today, just to archive it. So just so you know, it is being recorded, but we can't see or hear you. So there is a chat box though, so if you have questions, you can write in there, and then we'll hopefully have time for questions and answers at the beginning. So one of the reasons that we wanted to do this is because there's so many different ways that libraries can collaborate with different organizations. Some of them are kind of obvious partners, like Everybody Wins is a literacy organization, so it makes perfect sense to partner with them, but there are actually creative ways to work with them that people might not think of right away, and different advantages for libraries and Everybody Wins for working together in a partnership. And then the other 2 organizations are great outreach partnerships because they often bring in people that haven't been into the library before, or they make people see the library in a different way than they have before, and different community members recognize the worth of the library in a different way. They're also just super fun. So the first group that we're going to focus on is Everybody Wins, and we have the executive director, Beth Wallace from Everybody Wins, and she's going to tell you a little bit about the organization and then how she's worked with libraries.
Yeah. Super. Thanks, Joy. Hi, everybody. We're just showing a slide right now.
Oh, sure.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
It's all right. We're just adjusting a little technology here, so hang out with us, and pretty soon you'll be able to see us, apparently. At least that's what we're working on.
Should be able to.
Okay, so I'm going to start talking, and hopefully you can see us all. So my name is Beth Wallace. I'm the director of Everybody Wins Vermont, which is a reading mentoring organization in the state of Vermont and the Upper Valley of New Hampshire. And we have 23 different sites. We're in 23 different schools around the state. And we had over almost 600 people reading with kids in schools every week during the school year last year. So our mentors are, they're one-on-one mentors. We match them with children. They go in and read with that same child every week for the whole school year, and often for multiple years in a row. They might read for 4 or 5 years, depending on how, what the age range of the program is in any school. So it's a really clear partnership for us with libraries. It's really easy for us to partner with libraries. We love working with libraries, and we work with libraries in lots and lots of different ways. I think that the easiest, the most obvious one is that libraries often really help us spread the word about mentoring. They put in their newsletters or their Facebook pages, they let their clients and their folks know that we need mentors in the local school, whatever that school happens to be. And so many libraries around the state have done that for us that I can't even name them for you because there's really a lot. But there are many other ways. That's sort of the obvious one, and it's really helpful to us. But we've had librarians actually be mentors in the local school. So Ben Wolf in Tunbridge has done that for years. Joy Werland, who's sitting right here next to me, was a mentor for years in Waitsfield. And then occasionally, I think, Joy, you might be the only one, but we have had librarians who ended up being the coordinator of our program, which is a part-time position in all of our schools. Joy coordinated the program in Waitsfield for several years, and I think she's going to talk with you a little bit more about that later. Then we often work with libraries around support for special events. Especially our readathon, which happens in January in Montpelier. We've had the Kellogg Hubbard and Aldrich have loaned us books for the readathon. We've worked with libraries and librarians around farmers markets where we're doing booths. Ian here at the Aldrich brought a whole storytelling event over to our booth at the farmers market to help people get to know us better. And we have a literacy event for each of our schools every year. And in Middlebury at Ilsley Library, we work with the children's librarian there to co-host our literacy event in the library every year, where we bring mentors and families and children into the library to hear about the Dorothy Canfield Fisher Prize books every year in the spring. And then every so often we get to really actually co-host an event with a library. We've worked a lot with Jennifer Murray in South Burlington. She's the director of the library there. And we have a second readathon that we've hosted at the South Burlington Library now for a couple of years, which has been pretty successful. So there are probably many other ways that we could work with libraries, but those are the ones that really just came to mind where I think we have had ongoing collaborations over time. Joy, do you want to talk a little bit about like what you think the benefits have been from the library's perspective? You probably know as much about that as anybody.
Yeah. So as I was thinking about the benefits for libraries, I think it really breaks down into two things. There were the benefits for me as a librarian when I was involved as a coordinator, but I think some of those benefits would be there as being a mentor as well. And then a larger part of it is just the benefit to the community and the relationship that the school and the students of the school and the staff of the school can have with the public library. So for me as a librarian, what was really helpful for me was to be in the school a lot. I don't live in the town that I was working in, as a lot of us don't. So that was a way for me to really get sort of embedded in the community in a different way, especially with that population of children that I wouldn't probably have known except for the handful of ones that came to the library. And our population of people that came to the library increased so much from me having that presence in the school. And it also was really helpful to me just in terms of collection development because like a lot of librarians do, I was doing collection development for all ages. I'm probably more trained and more comfortable in doing that for adult collections, although I love children's literature, but it's not my specialty. So that was very helpful for me to be in, just engrossed in the school library 2 times a week, seeing what the kids were taking out, talking to those kids about what they were reading, and just knowing not only what was getting good reviews, but what were the kids actually in the town where I was working, where I was buying books for that library, what were they reading? Because that's not always the same as what book list says you should be buying for your library. So that was hugely helpful. And I think also, at least in our town, there was still some kind of feeling of the library being a little bit intimidating, maybe not as welcoming to children as we were really striving for, and I think that really took that piece out of it because also a lot of we had that cross-pollination that Beth was talking about, where a lot of the volunteers from our library were mentors, a lot of the patrons at the library were mentors, and so then there was this relationship that grew between different generations and between the library volunteers and some of the patrons that were there a lot and the kids. So when they came in after school, if they were a little bit noisy or whatever, it just didn't really matter as much because there was a friendliness between them and a lack of intimidation on the part of the kids. They didn't feel like they had to be really quiet or scared of the adults at the library when they came in. So that was huge. And I think also getting to know the staff at the library, at the school was really helpful for me, and it gave us a little bit of credibility, I think. So when we would talk about a program, it wasn't just that the library was doing it, they knew the actual people that were involved with it. And I would say that was probably, it was the culture of like really, really working together, which was something that was a goal, but being there and being involved with Everybody Wins made it really become a reality in a different way. That's about all I've got.
Yeah. I mean, I think, when I listen to you talk about that, Joy, I think a lot of times the benefits from Everybody Wins perspective are, you can just see the relationship, right? They're just hand in glove. So for us, it's about, I think really the most important thing for us is that Everybody Wins Vermont is the largest mentoring organization in the state, but it's also not very well known, which is sort of surprising. And until quite recently, we had people who were actually mentoring for us in schools who would say, oh yeah, I do this reading buddy program, but they had never heard the term Everybody Wins Vermont. They didn't really know anything about the organization. So for us, just really raising the profile of the organization through our work with libraries has been really important, feeling like we're kind of on the same team. Helping to promote each other's events for sure. A bigger mentor pool is really important for us. We could add mentors in any school in the state, I think, without trouble. We have children begging for somebody to come and read to them over lunch once a week everywhere in the state. And so really working with the libraries has given us access to just a bigger pool of people who care about books and care about kids and understand, I think, how important reading is. I think the other thing that's really important for us is just being able to have access to the expertise that librarians have and that libraries have. None of us at Everybody Wins are trained librarians, and yet we have collections. We have many collections of books in every school, and we have a collection of books at our office in Montpelier. And it's a little bit hit or miss. So being able to have a connection to a librarian who can tell us, oh, this book is really hot right now, or this is a great series, your kids would really like it, or this kind of kid would really like this book. That's something that we might not know about if we don't have access to librarians. So librarians really help us in that way. And I think that honestly, librarians and libraries are part of what we are trying to do, which is get kids to really love to read and love books. And when I was thinking about this presentation today, Joy, I was thinking about our annual survey. We do a big survey every year of mentors and mentees and teachers and parents. And one of the things that comes up every year when we ask what the benefits of the program are for kids, it's always about libraries. My son wants to go to the library every week now, and we used to never go to the library, right? My son, my daughter, I found her reading on the couch at 6 o'clock in the morning, a book that she took out from the library that I didn't even know she had, right? That kind of thing. I sent my daughter off to clean her room, and I went in to check on her 15 minutes later, and she was reading a book. That never happened before. So I think anytime that we can sort of, up the number of children that care about books and care about reading, it really makes a difference for Everybody Wins, but it makes a difference for the kids, and it makes a big difference for libraries, because those are kids who are going to come in looking for books.
Yeah, that actually reminded me of one of the things that I think public libraries and Everybody Wins really have in common, which is the enjoyment of reading. Like when you're a public librarian, you're not trying to teach literacy, you're not trying to teach the kids to read, you're trying to get them to love to read, and Everybody Wins has that same mission, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so
absolutely.
So I think that there's like this sort of partnership of celebrating not literacy, but not in terms of like, decoding words accurately or grade level, but loving literature and loving books and loving the pictures that are in books and loving the stories and the narratives that are told. And it just felt like I had like someone was on my team, when we did that when I was involved with Everybody Wins. It wasn't just the library doing that. It was, somebody else that was championing that sort of mission about books and kids.
It's really, that's why it's such a natural partnership, I think. We tell our mentors that their time mentoring is not about skill development, it's not about skill practice, that they're not tutors. It's really about a bedtime story. So it's very analogous in that way to story time, right, at the library, except that it's one-on-one instead of, a group of kids. But we know from research that kids learn more in many ways from being read to than they do from reading themselves. They learn more in terms of grammar, they learn more in terms of comprehension, they learn more in terms of vocabulary. And so that's what we tell our mentors to read to the children. That's whether the children read or not is not important. If kids want to read, of course they can. We don't tell them not to read. But I think it's very what's the word that I want? It's just the missions just are like this. It really, really makes sense, and we would love to do more in collaboration with local libraries.
Yeah, I'm just going to add one more thing to that. That part of Everybody Wins is that relationship between people who are enjoying books together, which is another thing that really pairs with libraries, because it's not just that we have a collection of books at our library, right? It's that people are coming in and they're talking about books together, whether it's a formal book discussion or just chatting at the circulation desk. There's using books and literature as a way to deepen relationships. So that's another thing that's really in tune in the two organizations.
And I think too that Everybody Wins is really about mentoring and relationship. And when we get involved with the library, it just adds another relationship to that child's life, right? They have the mentor, but they also have the library and the librarian, and there are other people like them. There are other people who like books or like that book or think about, what an author, might be trying to get at or might be trying to do in a book. And that's kind of news to a lot of kids, I think it's easy to forget because we're adults and we've been around for a while that sometimes children who care about something feel really isolated from other people who care about it. And we don't want kids who like books or love reading to feel isolated in that love. We want them to be connected with other people who also love books and language and reading. And the library and those collaborations with libraries are the best way to do that, I think.
Okay. Well, thank you, Beth. We're going to go on now to another organization called Rooted in Vermont, and we've got Laura Keenan, my colleague here at the Vermont Department of Libraries, and Shane Rogers, and they're going to talk about Rooted in Vermont and different library programming that can be done with that program.
Awesome. Thank you both. So my name's Shane Rogers. I am the Rooted in Vermont project manager. And I don't know about all of you, but I am fondly reminiscing over my times as a kid in the library right now, hearing about Everybody Wins, and just thinking about all those good times. So what Rooted in Vermont is Rooted in Vermont is a grassroots movement that is working to celebrate how all Vermonters are doing local food. It was created by the Vermont Farm to Plate Network, and the real goal is to change that local food narrative to be more inclusive of how everybody is doing local in their own unique ways. So what we're really trying to do is highlight activities that Vermonters have been doing for generations, such as hunting and fishing and growing backyard gardens and foraging, and heading down to your local supermarket or your farm stand and really celebrating how everybody is doing local, whether it's big or on a big scale or on a small scale, and the hope that everybody sees local food as their own unique thing. So our ultimate goal is to increase local consumption of food, because as of right now, as we're even in the state of Vermont, only 7% of the food that is bought here in the state is from local sources. And through this program and in concert with all the other amazing organizations and agencies and businesses that are working within this kind of local food movement, our goal is to increase that by 3% by 2020, which will end up resulting in about $300 million in economic activity from the farmers to distribution networks to the grocery stores, to really putting that money throughout the whole entire state and the economy. So why does that relate to the Vermont State Libraries and the libraries around the state is as we work to engage more Vermonters who aren't always talked to about local food or who aren't always involved with the local food movement, we are constantly looking for community hubs to be able to have those conversations with Vermonters about how they do local food and what they are doing in their own communities. So naturally, the Vermont State Libraries was a great fit to be able to do this. Being the center of communities from rural to urban, as we heard earlier from Everybody Wins, and as we all know, people are coming to the library as kind of that community center, whether it's to socialize or whether it's to pick up a book. And it really made sense for us to create this partnership. And what we are ending up doing is a week-long program called What Rooted in Vermont Food is in Your Backyard. So it's going to run from October 1st to October 7th. And what Laura and I are both doing are really working to encourage the libraries throughout the state to schedule one or more programs, whether that's passive activity programs or direct programs, to engage your community members, bring them into the library, and have a discussion about what local food means to them. And again, this ranges from not the $15 hamburgers or for your adult members like the expensive craft beers, but rather what's in your garden, what's growing on your fence post, what are the deer running through, and how can that be processed and used for food. So as we have been able to establish this partnership, I know Laura has sent out an email already detailing ways to become involved, and we've received already some enthusiastic replies, and I will let Laura take it from here.
Okay. So hi everyone. Hopefully most of you recognize me. I am the statewide consultant for library directors and trustees. And I used to be a library director in Shelburne, and in Shelburne and in many other communities that I visited, food and local food is a huge thing. So when I saw the Rooted in Vermont materials, I thought it would be a really great partnership. And so Shane and I are hoping that you'll join us for this week to take your library, and one of the things we all want to do is embed our library more directly into our communities in many ways. And an easy way to do that is through discussions or activities around food. So I did this a lot in Shelburne. I'm hoping that you guys will be encouraged to think about ways that you can do local food in your library during this week, and to build those local connections, to help people engage more directly with the local food movement in your town, to embed your library more deeply in the town by partnering with organizations or people you may not have thought to partner with before, or to bring in people from your community who may be experts in some sort of local food category. Shane brought up the 3 categories of gardening, foraging, and hunting and fishing. One of the ideas that I put out on the listserv, and I'll do it again, is this idea of potentially bringing local hunters into your library to talk about their hunting over the years and how their family has used that, or to bring a game warden in, or to bring someone to talk about hunter safety, to talk about fly tying, those sort of ideas. But I encourage you to be inspired to think about ways that you could talk about hunting and fishing and gardening or foraging in your community that can really entice people who might not have thought of the library as a resource for these types of discussions to enter into your library and engage with your fellow community members around these great ideas of the local food movement. And then if you decide that you want to do this, or if you need more ideas, you can contact me and Shane. Shane has a lot of great connections. So if you have an idea, but you're looking for a way to develop it, I encourage you to connect with him, and he can help connect you with people or resources. I can do that too. And if you decide to do that during the first week in October, to let Shane and I know that you want to do that, because Shane has an email listserv, but he's also going to be publicizing events around the state happening at libraries on Facebook and creating events. He also will do other things for you, which I'm going to announce in the coming weeks, like help connect you with your local newspapers to really publicize this, so that you can be really part of a statewide movement of celebrating local, and we can help amplify your activities at your local library to a statewide audience. So hopefully you'll get more attendance and more excitement built up around that. Some of the other ideas that I really get excited about, bringing people together over food at my library was a huge thing, so that might help at your library too if you had some sort of harvest celebration where people bring in items from their garden that you can bring together and create something together at the library. Or maybe people make a recipe using items from their garden, bring that recipe and the results into the library, and you have some sort of celebration. If you're lucky enough to have an orchard in your town, maybe you can do some sort of apple program or cider tasting program or a canning demo. Those always happen in the fall. Maybe you usually do a canning demo. Maybe you can schedule it for this week so you can be part of this larger statewide program. I talked already about the benefits to your libraries, but I'm sure that you can think of a few others. And for promoting it, again, Shane is going to be doing some Facebook events, which we'll hook you up with so you can use those to promote those on your Facebook page. I also encourage you we'll be sending out a poster template, which you can use to put your event on, and you can post up around town or in your library. I am a big advocate of finding new and interesting ways to publicize library events. And so I encourage you to use an event like this to give you an excuse to go talk to the select board or your local funders about something that doesn't have to do with money, but that does happen to do with the good work that your library is doing in your community. And this might be a unique event to bring before your select board to show them how you're embedding yourself in the community, especially if you know your select board members and you know one of the things you're going to be doing is something they're interested in. It's a good way to make that connection. Maybe you can create a little bookmark that you put at the front desk that you put in people's books to talk about this program that you're going to be doing, putting it in your calendars. Having a display with flyers about this event at it. Those are all sorts of things that hopefully can work for you.
And I just want to piggyback off of what Laura was saying, and that the nice thing about my job is that this is literally what I get paid to do. So I, as this week comes and as libraries across the state are figuring out if this programming does work, you can rest assured that I am here to help, especially along those promotion lines. So Laura did mention like setting up a Facebook event for your community, which you can share. We are also offering to send a free pack of Rooted in Vermont stickers and bumpers and postcards and brochures to be able to have at the event for people to take or just to have in general. And again, creating that press release and sending it out to your local newspapers and making sure that we're connecting it in. And then finally, what we want to make sure is that you guys are also plugging into these already created, collateral. So like the flyers and the posters, which we're happy to send along for you to fill in and print out. And just to reiterate, I am here, Laura's here to help make those connections in the community. On more ideas, for instance, I know there's a lot of farm-to-school organizations around the state that are doing great work and would probably love to partner up with the libraries. And sometimes those aren't the easiest to find, but with the Farm to Plate network and with Laura's connections, that's what we're here to email back and forth with and make sure that this is as smooth as possible. It's the least amount of work as possible, and to really engage the community in a relatively unique way.
Yeah. One thing I forgot to mention that you helped remind me of, Shane, is in engaging people in this unique way, one of my hopes for you is that it will help you in building advocates in the community that may not have been prime advocates for your library in the past. I'm not sure. In the libraries that I've worked in, I know that there are hunters, especially in fishermen in those libraries or in those communities, that may or may not see themselves as library advocates. And if you can show the community that the library is just more than books, that does offer a wider range of things, you can, in building these partnerships and bringing new people into the library, build up these new advocates for your library. And that's a great benefit anytime you try these new ideas. So we hope you give it a try.
Yeah, just as a very recently former library director, I'm just going to throw in there two things that I love about that. One is that they're making it so easy for You, right? I mean, because I know one of the things that was always very time consuming, I loved programming, but the whole making the Facebook event, making the posters, especially if I had to start from scratch. So there's going to be high quality like templates that you can just plug your information into, right?
Yep.
So that makes it easy for you, and I think that's huge. And then the other one was just along the lines of the bringing different people into the library, because I mean, this is really not that far from the information sharing traditional mission of libraries. It's just a different way of doing it. And so, you know, if your trustees are hesitant or anything about it, you could present it in that way. But at the same time, it's appealing to a whole different crowd of people that don't realize that we're information access, you know, making access to information more. You know, they just know that there's a cool program at the library that's different than anything that's happened before. So there's all sorts of advocacy directions you can go in with these things. Do you guys have anything more you want to add about Rooted in Vermont? Okay, so we're going to move.
Just
sorry.
one. No, just oh, it's okay. If you do decide to do the event, just make sure you email us, and that's how we'll be able to get all the fun stuff to you, including the posters and the stickers and the bumper stickers, and make sure to have that line of communication open.
Right, and at the end we'll have contact information at the end of this webinar, and also Laura will continue to be sending out reminders, and I'm sure have already gotten some, but that will continue happening. And so then the next program we're going to talk about is Agricultural Literacy Week, and we have Missy Axelrod here on the phone. Hopefully we're going to see if we can hear Missy. Are you there? Missy?
Hi, can you hear me?
Oh yeah, good, good. So yeah, I just we're ready for your part of it. So Agricultural Literacy Week is another thing that has a lot in common with Rooted in Vermont in terms of bringing in different people and celebrating the very Vermontness of Vermont. So have at it, please, Missy. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Please let me know if at any point you can't hear me. So I'm Missy Axelrod from NOFA Vermont, and I'm a resident of Roxbury. I'm a farmer, as well as a farm to community mentor for NOFA. NOFA is the Northeast Organic Farming Association. We're a Vermont nonprofit for farmers, gardeners, and consumers. And our mission is to promote an economically viable and ecologically sound Vermont food system for the benefit of current and future generations. One of our programs that we run is the Farm to Community Mentor Program. And that consists of two of us. Scout Prof covers southern Vermont, and I cover kind of central to northern Vermont. And our role is to bring the community to farms and the farms to the community. And one of our big projects that we've been doing for several years now is Ag Literacy Week. And so Ag Literacy Week is a 1-week celebration every year, the third week of November. The idea behind this is to really just celebrate our farmers and make it a part of all Vermonters' everyday language and understanding. And so a few years ago, we partnered with the Department of Libraries and the Vermont Agency of Farm and Markets. And we found that the libraries were really an amazing partner, not only because the word ag literacy screams libraries, but because they're such an integral part of the community. And it's a great way to bring farmers and community members to the library and vice versa. So every year we have a different theme that we decide on. And there's really no rhyme or reason to why we choose the theme. But what we'd like to have is this one main theme so that all of the libraries throughout the state can really integrate that and have it be this common thread that's weaved throughout that whole week. So I'm going to give you an example of past events that we've done, themes. I'm going to talk a little bit about this year's theme and how we're orchestrating that. I'm going to talk a little bit about why we collaborate with libraries and how that's been really beneficial, ways to have a successful program, some tips, and then we'll talk about a little bit of other work that we do with our Farm to Community Mentor and libraries, because this program is not the only one that we can do with libraries. There's many. So this year, So in the past, last year's theme was Vermont Farm Kids, and we produced a film featuring farm kids from the age of 23 and under. And the reason we did that was because we wanted to share the stories of what it's like to be raised on a farm and to live on a farm and to have that be part of their everyday. And we included some of the older kids, the young adults, because we wanted to hear what they were doing now. Did they leave the farm and come back? Are they still farming their family farm? Did they start their own? And so we created this beautiful documentary, and we had a kind of a grand opening in Montpelier. That was the main event. And then we provided that information throughout the state libraries, and they had the option to show it as well. And our role with NOFA is to help make connections for the libraries. So what we encourage is to always bring the farmer to the table. And so if there's a library that isn't really sure who in their community is a farmer, maybe they're not in as much of an agricultural area, we can always help make those connections to bring those farmers to the events. So that's one of the roles. So that was an example of one year. In other years, we've had a film, another film that wasn't produced by us, but that is a farm and food highlighted film. We've encouraged libraries to show that all over as well to keep that theme going. This year's theme is celebrating our ancestral agricultural roots. And this theme was sparked because kind of everything that's been happening recently with farm and food has been bringing us back to the roots of Abenaki agriculture in Vermont. And a few years ago, the Abenakis received state recognition, and they have been doing a lot of educational programming for teachers about teaching past and current affairs of Abenaki, so the history to current modern contemporary times. And we found that would be a really perfect theme to focus on, to really celebrate the Abenaki and the agriculture that they brought to this state, as well as all other ancestral agriculture. What we really wanted to do is just to celebrate generations, whether they're Abenaki or wherever they're from. And so the main theme will be the Abenaki, but they're not originally from every part of Vermont. So we're going to help connect libraries with some old-timer celebrated farms in your area. So what we're going to be doing, you're going to be seeing this really soon, is a newsletter that's going to talk a little bit about Ag Literacy Week, the dates, the third week of November, which is the 12th to the 17th. And there's going to be basically an overview in the newsletter. And then it's going to also script out 4 main events that we're having, that we're really putting a lot of time into organizing ourselves, NOFA and the Department of Libraries and the Agency of Ag. Just to give you a quick idea, one of them will be in Montpelier, one will be in Brattleboro, one is in Highgate, and one is in Vergennes. So based on those, we're going to encourage all the other libraries to produce their own event. And so we're going to have a little bit of a suggested program outlines to help you organize an event. Lots of libraries have their own way for setting program that works really well. So if that works for your library, I suggest doing that. But if you're kind of stumped and not sure what to do, this little bit of a scripted outline might be helpful. And we're going to have an adult version as well as a children's suggested version. So that'll be available to you really soon. And in order to continue that threading of the Abenaki culture, we have a little bit of a story from Dr. Fred Weissman, who is running a project called Seeds of Renewal. So that way that'll continue that. So that's a little bit of an overview of Ag Literacy Week. The reason we really integrated with the Department of Libraries is because it's such a strong partnership. And I think it really goes both ways. The libraries are such a great community space. They often have the space where we can meet and show events. They have lots of enthusiasm, energy, lots and lots of books that we can share with the community. And it's a great way to bring, as mentioned, from others of you, it's a great way to bring new people to the library that haven't been there before. And it's a great way for us to get people that might not know about NOFA Vermont and our programming, but that are already library patrons. So it kind of goes both ways, which is wonderful. Another really great thing that has worked is school libraries have walked to the public libraries for Ag Literacy Week events. And that's been a really great way to get more exposure from the school kids to libraries. A little bit about some of our other ideas, other programming that we've collaborated with libraries. This summer we've been doing a small series of what we've been calling simple summer suppers. We create a menu and we use Sign Up Genius. So for example, we're doing one tomorrow in Randolph, and the menu is a basic grilled summer salad buffet. And so people bring in different ingredients, raw ingredients from their gardens or from a local farm or the farmer's market. And then we bring it and we prepare it together right there in the library lawn. And it's been an amazing way to get people together, eating, celebrating. We bring the farmer to the table as well and let them open up the evening with a little bit of an overview of where they're located, what they grow, and where they sell it. And so we're making that community connection there, getting new people to sign up for library cards, new people to sign up for CSA shares. And it's just a really fun, yummy celebration and hands-on. Another example are farmer gatherings, where libraries have collaborated with NOFA to invite a series of farmers to the library to have roundtable discussions in the middle of winter when it's a little bit quieter for farmers. And it's just a great way to bring people to the table to network. Similar to that, there's been farmer panel discussions where farmers talk about their farm and the audience has the chance to ask questions and learn from the farmers. We've also collaborated on film events where we show a film and have a potluck after. Another really interesting collaboration that's been done sometimes, not only with the Department of Libraries and NOFA Vermont, but Hunger Free Vermont. Hunger Free Vermont offers a program called the Learning Kitchen. It is a community cooking class, and it involves bringing in a community member who is comfortable with nutrition and cooking to teach folks about shopping smart on a budget, cooking with local ingredients. And so that's been a really amazing collaboration as well. Some tips that have seemed to really work for libraries and for us at NOFA to have a successful program is advertising, making sure it's on social media, putting a press release out in the paper, the timing, making sure that there is another event in the area at the same time, inviting press to come and put it in the paper, inviting local town heroes to come so that they can see the importance of the work that libraries are doing. And then my favorite is always personal invitations, actually sending an invitation in the mail or making a phone call to invite the farmers to the event, invite some local community members. And those personal invites really seem to have helped bring people to the events. That, I think, is pretty much everything. That's kind of the overview of Ag Literacy Week and other collaborations between NOFA Vermont and the Department of Libraries.
All right, thank you, Missy. I just want to say that this is the first time I've ever heard the phrase farmer to table, which I love. I just heard it for the first time this afternoon in this webinar, and I've heard it like 3 times because, you know, we hear farm to table all the time, but farmer to table is really kind of an awesome concept too. So I love that. So we have time now if people have questions. If you have questions while we have the other partners here, if you have ideas about programming or things you want to see if they would work or not, or whatever you would like. There's a variety of people that might be able to answer them here, so you can either unmute yourself and talk, or you can. There is a place you can type in a question. Sounded like maybe someone was typing. Somebody's typing a message. Okay. We should add music or something.
Yeah, we can also unmute people if you'd like, but it
Okay,
could
not
turn into a
unmuting.
cacophony of people if we unmute a whole bunch of people at once. But
Oh, I do the take to set up a partnership with Everybody Wins.
Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and read that question out loud.
So here's the question that Marie asked: how long does it take to set up a partnership with Everybody Wins? The website seems to indicate a very long time. So Everybody Wins partnership is really primarily with the school. So not every school has an Everybody Wins program. Actually, this year, 23 schools in the state of Vermont will have a program. So if there isn't a program already in your local school, then it takes a year to 2 years for us to put everything in place. We fund the program, the school funds part of it, and we fund 2/3 of it. So it's really about putting the funding together and making sure that we can support the program. That's what takes the time. If you have a program in your local school, then actually setting up a collaboration with a library is like instantaneous. We can do that at any moment. But a new program in a new school, we've been around for 20 years, and we want to make sure that whenever we open a new program in a new school, we have both the community support, the school support, and the support within our organization to be able to fund it and keep it going for a long time. We have many programs that have been going for 18 years, 15 years, 10 years. We want all our programs to really last. So Marie, I hope that answered your question, but feel free to give me a call or type a follow-up if you have one. Great.
All right, so it looks like someone else was typing a message, but maybe you stopped, but it didn't come through if you want to get back to that. Or if anybody has any other questions. And again, there will be follow-ups from both Rooted in Vermont and Agricultural Literacy Week coming out on the listservs about different ideas and reminders, and of course those materials will be available as you start to develop your programming. So last chance for questions, comments. Anyone else here want to add anything?
Just I would say we probably feel, I'm sure Shane feels the same way, but and Missy, but please get in touch with us if you have any questions. Our contact information is there. We're all on the web, and we'd love to hear from you and talk more about the possibilities, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you for hosting.
Thank you for joining us, Missy.